Please, Mr. Li.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to introduce all of you about the China economy and China steel. So even it's my first time to be here, I still feel very challenging. From the previous presentation, a lot of people mentioned China. And even before I prepare my presentation, I also received a lot of questions from some of you. So anyhow, I travel around the world a lot. Not good news for me, all challenging, even today. Anyhow, so what's the real situation of China? Maybe most of you don't really understand. So here, I want to try my best to give you the full information, the full picture of China. So this topic is given to me by the organizer. So I will divide my presentation into 3 parts. First, to the microeconomy situation of China. Before I'm talking about the China economy, I want to show the picture of world steel changing, a big picture. From this picture, you can see from the 2000 to now, the world steel production increased from about 800 million tons to 1.6 billion tons, of which about 22.9% was from China. So that means that China still contribution a lot to world steel, also the raw material, everything related to steel. And what's the reason for that? And a lot of people mention the China economy. According to our research, now the world steel industry to a new stage. From the first 8 months of this year, you can see the world steel industry steel producer decrease about 2.3%, of which China decreased about 2%. So that's why we mentioned we go into a new stage. Specifically for China's new normal of economy. Simply, we see the growth rates return from high speed into a medium high speed of China total GDP. And what's more important, not only for the growth rates, but for the structure of China economy. As mentioned, we will lead by consumption economy. What's more important for the industry itself, also including steel industries, that means we turn from low-end to medium and high-end products. That's why China products can be so popular around the customer around the world. Of course, not happy with the producer, because the quality great improved. Good price always will come, and especially the excellent service from China steel company to the customer. Of course, with the increase of China economy, specifically for the manufacturing area, China will be more activity around a lot of international democracy. But anyhow, we think China is positively, not negatively, around the global issues. Okay, this picture shows you the first half year of China economy. We can see the GDP growth about 7%. That's one thing. And what's more important, I want to mention here is that the service industry grows faster than the manufacturing areas. So that's more important that the structure of China economy changing. That means that the service for the structure of the economy, the service industries contribute more than 51.6% of the GDP. The manufacturing area contributes only about 42.8%. So that's a big change. Another very important situation for China economy is that consumption increased very, very fast and lead the economy to develop. During the first half of the year, the consumption contributed about 60% of total GDP. That's very, very important of the structure because about 55% of China steel consumption go to the investment area, and about 35% go to the manufacturing area. You can see the contribution to GDP changing them, led by service industries, led by consumption. So that means the China steel consumption reached another very important point. So for the first 8 months, I give you more updated information. Then the investment area increased only about 10.9%, much lower than before. Before, China economy led by the investment area, which gave the huge market for China steel products. Now the investment area increased much lower than before, only about 10.8%. It's a very, very big change for China economy. So very big issue coming. So the Chinese Purchasing Manager Index was below 50%. It's not good news for China, but also not good news for the world, because China imported a lot of raw material, iron, metallurgical coal, oil from around China. For steel, even more negative. So because the PMI of China steel maintained 18 months below 50%. So that means that China steel much more negative news for China itself, but also for the world. So this picture shows you the changing of China steel production. You can, from this picture, you can see, we see in the year 2013, China steel production reached the peak stage. Oh, sorry. Peak stage. For the first 8 months, China steel production declined 2%. Because China is about 50% of the world steel production. 2% decline is a very big change. Why? Because the consumption of China steel market declined about 5%, about 4.8%. It's a big challenge for China steel industries. Before, the consumption keep increasing very fast. Now, China steel consumption locally not increasing, but decreasing. So it's very, very big change for China steel industries. Maybe more affecting the world steel market. So this picture shows you the big change. You know, I think from the 1949 to currently, China steel production increased very fast, especially after the year 2000, when China joined the World Trade Organization. A lot of people ask me why China steel industry can keep so fast increase. First, China market is there. More than more than 90% of China's steel producer consumption locally. And another big number, all of you should remember, by the end of last year, China totally imported for steel production about 600 million tons. Before, China imported a lot of steel products around the world, from Europe, from Japan, from the US. That gives China's steel industry the big market to develop. So this is the situation, the distribution of China, each province in steel production. Anyhow, most of the product around the area, about 53.4% of China's total production in the area. China have two provinces. China province is different from here. We have the country level, province level, county level. So two provinces steel production over 100 million tons. One is the Hebei province, roughly about 200 million tons per year. Another Jiangsu province, about 100 million tons, two provinces. So you can see that China still concentrated in the distribution locally and the two provinces especially. And this is all the steel production is the production of all steel companies. So we can say roughly currently in China we have about 500 steel companies, 500, big number. But the CISA member, roughly about 100, but the big one, produce about 80% of China's steel production. I want to share my information of you. There are 31 companies with their production over 5 million tons. Here, 2 over 40 million tons, and 4 over 30 million tons. 10 to 20 million, 14, 5 to 10 to company. So you can see there are a lot of China's steel companies with large scale. That means more efficient than before. So maybe most of you not have the opportunity in China. So you cannot understand what's the situation in China. So I mentioned the consumption. You can from the year 2000 to currently, and about 55% go to the investment area. If the investment increase rate decrease very fast, the total consumption shrinking a lot. So this picture very, very arguable because this shows the export. So this is from the 2004 and last year. Yes, last year China export about 93 million tons. This year, the first 8 months, China still keep increase to export. For the first 8 months, China export about 71.87 million tons, increase about 26.5% increase. So it's a big issue. That's why a lot of countries take the anti-dumping to China. But personally, and travel around the world is unfair. Yes, you smile. Thank you. Because the customer welcome us. I'm very welcomed by the customers, even by trade company. But the producer, another story. So I meet a lot of challenges in a lot of conferences. This year, this is my third time to go to the international conference to give a speech. Anyhow, I want to share my understanding, a different story. You just want to export. You don't like importing. But why the customer welcome us? I repeat again. Good quality, good price, excellent service to the customer. That's the key for China steel can keep so high level export. Even you take the anti-dumping, you cannot stop it. Even you can stop your customer, you can do it. You cannot. you just protect the how to say that, the not good for your customer, not good, even not good for your company. You cannot improve your efficiency. I mentioned that by the end last year, China totally imported about 600 million tons steel products from other countries. Nobody remember this number. Now we export. You are angry. Not good news. So where the product going to? And so in last year, 2014, about 13 countries, over 2 million tons. 2 million tons. You can see most of the, you can, from the picture, you can see most of China's steel products go to the neighboring countries. Even US against China, but we export to US only about 3 million tons. But totally, US import about over 14 million tons. So that's another story to China's development. So I think it's biased to China's development, not fair to China going up. So that's the structure of the different countries. You can see most to the neighboring countries, not go far from here, but of course, some to Turkey. In the OECD conference, I made a challenge from the friend of Turkey. So you import too much to China. Anyhow, for Chinese government, we really don't encourage to export. You can see here a lot of trade company, they buy from steel producer, so they export. So total another story. This is the structure of the production. You can see the flat product about 46.6%, long product about 32.9%, the pipe about 10%. So the structure of China steel to export. So you can see more flat products than long products. So don't worry too much for this conference. Of course, the price is the lowest in the world steel market. Even in the early September, the figure fell to 62.28, much lower than before. So that's a big challenge for Chinese steel producer. I agree. Some of you understand it's a big challenge. So that's the real price, the lowest price around the world. That's where your customer, not only to export price, it's a local price. Of course, with the overcapacity, the investment area in steel area decline very quickly. But most of the investment go to the downstream process, not to steel making. Not any new facility coming. If you have a new facility coming, that means close the old facility. So that's the general situation of China economy and China steel industry. So another thing I want to share with you, what's the future? Shortly, I want to, what's the foundation of China steel industry? What are we thinking? Maybe you have your idea of thinking about China. What are our thinking? You know, according to my understanding, steel industry is still very important to China. First, the production scale advantage. Steel industry is still very important to China economy. You can see last year we produced about 828 million tons, 23 million tons. And local market is about 98.6%. Contribute a lot to China economy. Second, also very important, China now is the center of the world steel producer, exporter, and consumption. That means China produces half of the world steel production. Thirdly, we have some very good company. Very good company. I mentioned that we have 31 companies with a production over 5 million tons. Some are very competitive internationally. What's more important, we have a very complete industry system, from the design, machinery, building, everything. We have very complex supply chain of steel industries. That's why China can develop so fast. It's very important. When I graduated from university in 1984, China produced only about 30 million tons. 30 million tons. So it's without the system to support the industries, the industry cannot have the advantage. And that's the good news for us. But the bad news, yes, overcapacity. I'm sorry, not only China overcapacity. Overcapacity is an international scenario. Before European, US, Japan, I don't have I have the figure. Japan export about 40% of their products. We only export about 10%. Yes, we are a big number. We cannot compare this situation. So that means overcapacity is not China's single problem. It's overall. Of course, we still have some room to improve our quality. I also hear some questions from the customer. Some of your product quality not good enough. Yes, we still have to work very hard to improve the quality, especially for the smaller ones. Another thing that we need strengthen our innovation ability to keep the industries more competitive. The big issue is that China's steel industry should go globalization. Not only focus in China, we should try our best to go overseas. Not only the products, but also the capacity to cooperation with the related countries. And big issue for China's industry is that for the consumption, we reach the peak stage. We cannot keep increase. I have read some report from some mining company mentioning that China's steel production can be reached more than 10 billion tons. I very disagree with this estimate, misleading people. According to our research, China reached the China's steel industry and consumption reached the peak. I will decline in the future. So that with the overcapacity, the competition very seriously. And of course, the task to dealing with the overcapacity is very tough. Not only China, but globally. And of course, some people mentioned the cash flow problem with some company. Yes, some company closed because of the cash flow problem. So that's some risk. And also the high pressure bed environment issue, and also the colossal global competition. Yes, we export with a lot of challenges, not only from the advanced countries, but also for the developing countries. So very, very tough for China steel industry globalization. So summary, yes, according to our understanding, China's steel industry go down trip. How to say totally the character is large scale and very important to national economy, but very diversified, especially for the good and good company and bad company, and also by the pressure, by the industrialization, and also conflict property rights. Especially, maybe you don't understand under the situation of a very complicated property rights. Some have the state origin, private, foreign, and also collective coexisted. And also very tough environment for the company to operate. Because China is also, we mentioned we are still a developing country. We still have to create a good environment for all companies to compete fairly. So, this is very big research of us. So you can see I mentioned the consumption of Chinese steel in the future. Now we reach the peak, we go to down. Then very important for China's steel industry, also for the world. Even in the year 2030, 15 years later, China's steel consumption still at a high level, roughly about 600 million tons. But anyhow, decrease about 100 million tons. Another big change for the raw material. Here, you can see the consumption of the scrap. I'm sure that with the accumulation of scrap in China, the scrap consumption will increase step by step. But anyhow, the iron ore consumption will a little decline, but still need to import them because the low price of iron ore from the big 4 international mining companies, very competitive globalization. We have the iron ore, but the cost are a little high. I think this is a very important picture for China steel consumption in the future, decline, and a change of structure. Very important. So that means with our research, I think China's steel industry go down. It's long term, not short term, at least 10 years. I had a story in Europe in more than 20 years to solve the overcapacity. In China, I think at least 10 years because a lot of tough issues, the employment, the data issues, the stability of the society, etc. And also coming with the process adjustment. I mentioned the BOF and EF coming together. Currently, the EF production roughly about 10%. In the future, in the year 2013, according to our research, it will be over 20%. It's a big change with the big volume. Also, China will keep high level of export. I mentioned the overcapacity, globalization, the good competitiveness with China's steel company, so we can find our customer in the world. So the survival of the fittings, of course, with the competition, there will be some small company leaving the market. We already have some company closed. I mentioned that we have 500. In the end, I think maybe 200. It's good news for China steel industry. The best one will survive. We also have diversified our development, not only focus on steel. Of course, we have to pay more attention to innovative development of the steel industries. So in the future, we think we have several areas for steel industry. The key is that reducing the production. It's not easy because so many companies, no one can control it. The market can control it. If no market, no opportunity to survive, they close. So we go great development, intelligent operation to improve the service, specialization, diversification, and go overseas. So for time, so I cannot go to more details, just give the key point here. So a lot of time, because I prepare a lot of PPT, you can watch the details with my PPT, because I think time limited. Yeah. Because we are only company in China to provide a service for the central government, local government, and the steel industry, also all the individual companies. So then when I travel a lot, so we give them our develop strategy. So if you want to understand China, you can start my PPT later. So another key issues, we also evaluate the competitiveness of China's steel industries. We have our methodology. So each year we publish the competitiveness of China's steel company. This is the 5-year of the publication. So we covered 33 area, 11 factor, and 20 index to evaluate the competitiveness of the steel company in China. This picture, not only the big one, but the more competitive steel company in here. So this, both steel is more competitive for China's steel company. Number one, the second maybe some of you cooperate with the Hebei group, second, and Shagang group. So we have different group, the first team, second team, third team. So we list all the company, we can get the detailed information, the competitiveness with the 20 index. So you can find a golden partner from China Steel in company. Because I know some of you from trade company, I hope you find the good one, not the bad one, which not only affect your emission, but also affect China's steel industries. So these more details were the top 10, top 20, and the second, the top 45 company, more details. I want to waste time. Finally, one word of our company, China Metallurgical Planning and Research Institute, short for MPI, is a consulting company for government for steel industry. We have a close contact with all steel companies, but we also help China steel industry so as to come and go overseas. So some of you have close relation with both steel and Hebei and Shagang. We are good partner in China. So finally, I want to share some information of my company several times. You can, if you're interested, you can find it. Anyhow, thank you for attention. Thank you.